Welcome to Lesson 4 of our course Introduction to Data Security and Anonymization in Open Data Projects. In the previous lesson, we looked at the European legal and governance context for responsible open data publication. This lesson turns to a very practical question. How should teams protect data while they are preparing, reviewing, anonymizing, and publishing it? This lesson sits between the governance discussion and the later anonymization methods. That is deliberate. Before we transform data for release, we need to make sure that the original and working versions are handled securely. Governance explains who should review and approve publication decisions. Security focuses on how data is protected while those decisions are being prepared. This matters because the working dataset is often more sensitive than the final published version. If raw data is copied, shared, or uploaded incorrectly, anonymization may not have a chance to reduce the risk. The first part of the lesson explains why security matters even before a dataset is published. In open data projects, publication is only the final step. Before that, teams often work with raw files, draft extracts, spreadsheets, and review versions. These may contain personal, sensitive, or otherwise restricted information. And that is why the working dataset often deserves the strongest protection. It is easy to think about risk only at the moment of publication, but in practice, many risks appear earlier. Raw data may be shared too widely. Working files may be copied without control, or draft versions may circulate without clear labels. Access may not be restricted, or files may be stored in unmanaged locations. In other words, risk often arises during handling, not only at the final publication step. This is why the working dataset often needs the strongest protection. The final open dataset should contain only the information that has been reviewed and approved for publication. But before that point, teams may handle files that still contain names, precise locations, exact dates, sensitive attributes, or internal notes. These working files should not circulate freely. Security measures help protect the data while anonymization and review are still taking place. The most basic security question is who should be allowed to access those working files. This part focuses on access control. In simple terms, access control means deciding who can access which data, for what reason, and for how long. A practical principle helps guide those decisions. Least privilege. Least privilege means that people should only have access to the data they actually need for their task. A project manager may need to know that a dataset exists, but not necessarily see the raw file. A data analyst may need a working extract, but not all direct identifiers. Permissions should also be reviewed. People change roles, projects end, and shared folders can become risky if all access remains active. Access control is only one part of the picture. Teams also need to think about where files are stored and how they move. Security is often weakened by everyday habits such as emailing spreadsheets or saving files locally. It is important to only use approved storage locations and systems. Keep working copies of a dataset, both limited and traceable, using labels. For open data teams, version control is especially important. Clearly separate draft file, a review file, and an approved publication file. Clear storage rules and secure transfer methods reduce the chance that the wrong dataset is exposed. Avoid personal email, private cloud accounts, or USB sticks. The next part looks at tools people often associate with security, encryption and passwords. Encryption and passwords are important security measures for sure, but they only work well when they are part of a broader workflow with access control, version control, and careful publication steps. Encryption can protect data at rest or during transfer, and strong passwords help prevent unauthorized access. These are important safeguards, but they do not change what the data means. Encrypted personal data is still personal data if it can be decrypted or linked back to individuals. Encryption also does not solve workflow problems such as wrong uploads, shared links, or publication of the wrong version. It is a security measure, not anonymization. ENISA also treats cryptography as one important method for protecting personal data, rather than as a substitute for broader security and governance measures. Many risks in open data projects come not from advanced attacks, but from ordinary workflow mistakes. In many projects, the biggest risks are not dramatic cyber attacks. They are ordinary mistakes: the wrong attachment, the wrong folder, the wrong access setting, the wrong version. Spreadsheet files can also contain hidden columns, filters, comments, or metadata which should not be shared. Open data teams should build simple checks into the publication process so that these mistakes are caught before release. A short scenario may help make these risks easier to spot, so head on over to our practice on what went wrong. This lesson focused on practical data security basics for open data teams. The main point is that data needs protection even before it becomes open data. Teams should limit access, use approved storage only, transfer files securely, manage versions carefully, and remember that encryption of a file is not anonymization of the data contained in the file. The next lesson turns to the methods used to reduce identifiability in the dataset itself.